What is the probability that someday I do meet somebody like you and not in this context?
Well, if you marry, there's about a 56% chance that your marriage will end in divorce. Now, that doesn't take into consideration how many people may consult with a divorce lawyer because they're having difficulty in their marriage, but they choose subsequent to meeting me not to divorce for some particular reason, whether that's they don't want to part with half of their funds, or they've just decided it's easier to stay miserable and with a person, or they're staying together for the kids, but they wanted to know what their rights were. So if you marry, the chances of meeting someone like me are more likely than not, if we look at it that way, because it's more than 50%. So it's a high number, you know.
But if we define failure as all of the other things you've described there, where we kind of stay together but we're miserable, or we stay together for some other reason, what percentage of marriages on that basis do you think actually fail?
I mean, if we consider failure staying together miserable for the children or staying together for financial, economic reasons, and then we add that to the 56% that end in divorce, then, I mean, it would be very hard to track that, but I think it's generous to think it's another 20% probably. But I mean, think about what that adds up to. That means that you've got something that fails 75% of the time. That's a negligent activity. That is more likely than not to cause significant harm in your life. So I don't say that to sound like the Grim Reaper when it comes to marriage. I actually really think marriage is a lovely thing, and I get misty-eyed at weddings like anybody, and not just for future business purposes. I think the statistic that's even more interesting to me than how many marriages end in divorce or how many people stay together miserable is that 86% of people who divorce remarry within 5 years. So think about that. Now you've done this thing. It's failed. You've gone through this difficult process of having to undo it. And now within 5 years, 86% of people remarry. I mean, so that tells you how important this is to us as humans, how drawn to this idea, this technology of marriage we are. And that to me is fascinating because I've often said, like, I'm not sure what problem is marriage designed to solve? See, the fact that it takes this long to think. If I said to you, what purpose does this technology, this mug, what does it serve? Well, that's easy, right? It's hard to drink out of your hands, and someone would have to keep coming up and pouring things in our hands. Okay, well, that's pretty straightforward. What problem does this solve? Well, that's easy, right? We want to get, the ring stains around. We get yelled at by our significant other for not using a coaster. So these are easy things. But marriage, something so ubiquitous that it's assumed. If you're dating someone for a few years and you say, guess what? We're getting married. Everyone goes, of course, phenomenal, congratulations, that's great, of course you're gonna do that. You make an honest woman of her, of course. Whereas if you say, we've been together for 3-4 years, we decided we're not gonna get married, people go, oof, what's wrong with this guy? He's got intimacy issues, he's not getting married. What's the problem that you don't wanna get married? Whereas rationally, the response should be, oh yeah, we're getting married. What? Are you kidding me? Why are you doing that? It's like someone saying, I'm gonna go skydiving. It's like, wait, are you crazy? That's a dangerous thing to do. And it's not, listen, skydiving, it's not like 75%, 76% of people die who are skydiving. So the truth is, like, it makes very little sense to me that marriage is assumed to be a thing you will do when in fact we as a species are so unbelievably bad at it.
That sort of 86% that then get remarried after divorce, have they learned from their mistakes? Are they better at marriage?
This time it's different. It's this time I'm really in love. That other time when I thought I was in love, that wasn't it. This time it's different. It really, it's a blind spot. And again, where does it come from? You'd have to ask people smarter than me. It could be neuroscience. It could be the realm of a real deep social psychology. It could just be a cognitive bias. I have no idea. It could be a delusion brought on by inadequate lighting, but whatever it is, we go, oh yeah, but this one's different. This one, I did a prenup last week for a guy who went through the one of the ugliest divorces I've ever seen, and that's not hyperbole. Like, I've been doing this for 25 years, just to say. So for me to say the ugliest divorce I've ever seen that's amazing. That's a really big deal. That's like a Michelin chef saying this was the best meal I've ever had. So this guy had a horrific divorce that lasted 4 or 5 years. He's remarrying a woman 30 years younger than him who he met 4 months ago. And when I said to him, as artfully and tactfully as I could, you've only known this person for a short time. And, have you thought about maybe just, being a little cautious in terms of you've seen how difficult a divorce can be? Do you think maybe it might be? He goes, oh no, I've never felt anything like this. I've never been this in love. I've never been so connected with someone. We just get each other. And, it would be very indelicate and rude for me to say, like, snap out of it, man. You got to get your, really, bring your logical brain to this equation. Do not bring the part of you that's just filled with romance and has Christmas in your eyes. Like, really, you got to look at this honestly.